Welcome to another brief, short period of instruction from me. I pray that you gain some edification from this. Okay. With that, Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, Kawah, Kawah Kodash. Heavenly Father, I pray that you allow me to edify the sheep, of which myself is included, and that the fellow believers walk away with some information and search for more information from those that are stronger than me in this word. I'm very new. This is the beginning, and I don't want to drive anybody away. Okay, with that, what we're going to do, we're going to talk about briefly, a very small portion of the Hellenization of the Israelites and what happened, the cause that to happen, how it began, which led to the falling away. And so I tell you, we're going to jump right into it. Okay. But first, let me share my screen. That's not what I want. I want present. Right. And share, but I was looking at. I'm gonna share share this one before you. All right. Romans 15:4. For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope. Through this word, the things that you see coming on the earth, it happened in the past. Nothing is new under the sun, although in this time it's going to be much more deadly and horrific. Deadly, So the scriptures of old, all the scriptures are written so that not to panic. The Lord is with us. This is His. This is the medicine. This is a prescription that we read His word, so that when these things happen, we don't walk around perplexed like those that are out of the truth. Okay. So I'll tell you what. Let me go to 2 Thessalonians. Where are you at? 2 and 3. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. And so my focus on this is when the Hellenization period began, or when it starts, the Hellenization of Israel, it's going to start with someone that the Israelites trust and believe, convinced a certain amount of people to join, to join the Hellenistic society, and we're going to discuss that in First Maccabees. So the man of sin, what the future prophecy is going to be the revealing of the Edomites. Back in that time, those people, Alexander the Great, Antiochus, they were Edomites. So this just further illustrates that what would happen in the past is going to happen in the future. The Edomites were destroying us in the past, and the other nations, because they were all took part in our destruction and the Edomites are in the future ruling the earth. The earth is given to the hand of the wicked. They are fervently working on destroying, the Most High's people, to enslave them, to destroy our connection with Him. So let me see. Let me see. I'll tell you what. I'm gonna first of all let me there was the definition I wanted to get before we move on. Let's see, it's gonna be a falling away. What does it mean by that? Gonna be a falling away? Falling away.
Strong's G 646. Apostasia. Apostasia.
Apostasia. To forsake. Falling away. To forsake what? To forsake the teachings of Yahushua. A falling away. Defection. Defection from the truth. Let me see.
Apostasy.
The abandonment or renunciation of a religious or political belief or principle. See? And some of the similar words: recantation, treachery, perfidy, faithlessness, disloyalty, betrayal, defection, desertion, heresy, tergiversation, recreancy. So what happened is the Israelites abandoned the faith and began practicing the Greek methods and worshiping their gods and doing the things that they did, which is abomination, which is complete disregard for our culture, for the Most High. Okay. All right. So let me see. Let's see my next step. Let's get into the lesson now. Okay, just stop that. All right, so let's see. All right, and let's start with First Maccabees 1. And it happened that after Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who were Edomites, who came out of the land of Chittim. What is Chittim? Chittim. Nothing found with Chittim. Let me see. Chittim, definition, meaning, biblical, in the Bible. Chittim, references. Chittim is actually Greece, but I'm not seeing it here. You can help me. Help me. Give me Chittim. Chittim. Okay. I'll find it later. And it happened after Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, which are Edomites, who came out of the land of Chittim, had smitten Darius. Chittim was the Greeks. The Greeks, Alexander the Great. He was a Grecian ruler, Grecian king. Had smitten Darius, the king of the Persians and the Medes, that he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece. See, all I have to do was keep reading it, and I would have found it. It's a waste of our time. Right? And made many wars and won many strongholds and slew the kings of the earth and went through the ends of the earth and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quieted before him. Whereupon he was exalted and his heart was lifted up. He was gathered a mighty strong host. He gathered a mighty strong host, Salaki, and ruled over countries and nations and kings who became tributaries unto him. And after these things he fell sick and perceived that he should die. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. Sluggy. So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died. And his servants bare rule over one of his place, over everyone in his place. After his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. And then came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus. Let me see. I think I'm chopping up. I want to be able to say that, to pronounce that correctly.
Antiochus.
Antiochus, okay. Get back. And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, who had been a hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year. Okay, let me see. Mac 10. Antiochus. I want to see if I can get this. Okay. Okay. All right, I'll just go on. And there came out of them wicked root Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus, Antiochus the king, who had been a hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. In those days went there out Israel wicked men, who persuaded many, saying, "Let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have much sorrow." Okay. Hence, 2 Thessalonians 2 and 3. Then so this device pleased them well. Then certain of the people were so forward herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen. Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem, according to the customs of the heathen. Now, back in those days, they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem, according to the customs of heathen. But to build was a gym. Okay? Now, the Grecians were pretty, it's pretty nasty people. Okay, in the gym, they exercised and did things nakedly, nude, which was, in itself, wicked. Okay? And that was amongst other things, amongst such as, eating pork and so forth, but I diverse. 15, and made themselves uncircumcised and forsook the holy covenant and joined themselves to the heathen and were sold to do mischief. Now, when the kingdom was established before Antiochus, he thought to reign over Egypt that he might have a dominion of 2 realms. Wherefore he entered into Egypt with a great multitude, with chariots and elephants and horsemen, and a great navy, and made war against Ptolemy, king of Egypt. But Ptolemy was afraid of him and fled, and many were wounded to death. Thus they got the strong cities in the land of Egypt, and he took the spoils thereof. After Antiochus had smitten Egypt, he returned again in the 143rd year and went up against Israel and Jerusalem with great multitude. It's like with a great multitude, and entered proudly into the sanctuary and took away the golden altar and the candlesticks of light and all the vessels therein, and the table of the showbread, and the pouring vessels, and the vials, and the censers of gold, and the veil, and the crown, and the golden ornaments that were before the temple, all which he pulled off. He took also the silver and the gold, and the precious vessels. Also he took the hidden treasures which he found. And when he had taken all away, he went into his own land, having a great massacre, and spoken very proudly. Therefore were a great mourning in Israel in every place where they were, so that the princes and elders mourned. The virgins and young men were made feeble, and the beauty of the women were changed. Every bridegroom took up lamentation, and she that sat in the marriage chamber was in heaviness. The land was moved for the inhabitants thereof, and all the house of Jacob was covered and with confusion. And after 2 years fully expired, the king set his chief collector of tribute unto the cities of Judah, who came into Jerusalem with great multitude, and spake peaceable words unto them. But all were deceived, for when they had given him credence, he fell suddenly upon the city, and smote it very sore, and destroyed much people of the earth. When they spoke peace, they came with violence. That's in the scriptures. That one. And when he had taken the spoils of the city, he set it on fire and pulled down the houses and walls thereof on every side. But the women and children took they captive and possessed the cattle. Then builded they the city of David with a great and strong wall, with mighty towers, and made it a stronghold for them. And they put therein a sinful nation, wicked men, and fortified themselves therein. They sought it also with armor and victuals, and when they had gathered together the spoil of Jerusalem, they laid them up there, and so they became a sore snare. For it was a place to lie in wait against the sanctuary, and an evil adversary to Israel. Thus they shed innocent blood on every side of the sanctuary, and defiled it, insomuch that the inhabitants of Jerusalem fled because of them. Whereupon the city was made an habitation of strangers, and became strange to those that were born in her, and her own children left her. Her sanctuary was laid waste like a wilderness. Her feasts were turned into mourning, her Sabbaths into reproach, her honor into contempt. As had been her glory, so was her dishonor increased, and her excellency was turned into mourning. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people, and everyone should leave his laws, so that all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion, and sacrifice unto idols, and profane the Sabbath. At this time is when the abomination is desolation. And as we'll talk about 44. For the king has sent letters to messengers up unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, that they should follow the strange laws of the land, and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice, and drink offerings in the temples, in the temple, and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice, and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbath and festive days, and pollute the sanctuary and holy people, set up altars and groves and chapels of idols, and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts. The altars and groves and chapels of idols that they set up now are the churches and different religions, 47, 48. And unclean beasts, that they should also leave their children uncircumcised and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation, to end they might forget the law and change all the ordinances. And whosoever would not do according to the commandment of the king, he said, should die. And the selfsame manner wrote to his whole kingdom, and appointed overseers over all people, commanding the cities of Judah to sacrifice city by city, that many of the people were gathered unto them, to wit, every one that forsook the law, so that they committed evils in the land, and drove the Israelites into secret places, even whosoever they could flee for secure. What is secure? Succor, assistance and support in times of hardship and distress. All right. 54. Now, the 15th day of the month, Caslu, in the 145th year, they set up the abomination of desolation upon the altar and builded idol altars throughout the cities of Judah on every side. A burnt incense at the door, and burnt incense at the door of the houses and in the streets. And when they had rent in pieces the books of the law which they found, they burnt them with fire. See, them devils burnt our books, a lot of them. But some of them they stole, because the Grecians, they were stealing everything. When they use them, they hide, and they do what Edomites do. They claim them for themselves. They claim that they wrote them. Like a lot of your poets, that some of your great philosophers, much of the work that they did, they stole from other places, other people, but I digress. 57. Whosoever was found with any book of the testament, or if any committed to the law, the king's commandment was they should be put to death. And that's coming in this time. Thus did they, by their authority, unto the Israelites every month, to as many as were found in the city. Now 25th day of the month they did sacrifice upon the idol altar, which was upon the altar of the Most High, at which time, according to the commandment, they put to death certain women that had caused their children to be circumcised. Because a lot of Israelites, they was practicing or doing things that please the Most High, on the undercover, hiding, so that they wouldn't be destroyed. And they were destroyed. They were destroyed. They were killed. 61. And they hanged the infants about their necks, and rifled through their houses, and slew them that had circumcised them. Howbeit in Israel were fully resolved and confirmed themselves not to eat any unclean thing. Well, so I can read that again. Howbeit, many in Israel were fully resolved and confirmed to themselves not to eat anything. Wherefore they rather to die, that they may not be defiled with meats, that they might not profane the holy covenant. So then they died. And there were very great wrath upon Israel. All right. Let me see. I was going to save this, but it fits. Okay. Okay. Second Maccabees, chapter 1. The brethren, the Jews that be at Jerusalem, chapter 1. Oh no, Second Maccabees. Slakia needs 7. All right. It came to pass also that 7 brethren with their mother was taken and compelled by the king against the law to taste swine's flesh, and were tormented with scourges and whips. But one of them that spake first said thus, What wouldst thou ask or learn of us? We are ready to die, rather than to transgress the laws of our fathers. Then the king, being in a rage, commanded pans and cauldrons be made hot, which forthwith being heated, he commanded to cut out the tongue of him that spake first, and to cut off the uttermost parts of his body, the rest of his brethren and his mother looking on. Now this is this is no stranger to the Judah. During the slavery, the Edomites, they would hang the slaves and they would cut pieces off their body, including their, their nut. They cut their balls, cut their dicks off. Now, whenever you talk about slavery, a lot of times those that weren't slaves of other nations, they would claim, well, everybody went into slavery, But yes, slavery was a common thing, throughout the ages. The issue is the type of slavery. No other nation had their balls cut off, for sport, And here you have it, done by Edomites then, and it was done by Edomites back in the past, the Grecians. This system, this beast system, our government is fashioned, with Grecian foundation. The Senate, the way it's set up, that's all Grecian, right? And it's coming, you can see it coming forward from the past. So the past speaks out. Number 5. Now, when he was thus maimed in all his members, he commanded him, being yet alive, to be brought to the fire and to be fried in the pan. And as the vapor of the pan was for good space dispersed, they exhorted one another with the mother to die manfully, saying thus, The Lord Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai, looked upon us, and in truth hath comfort in us, as Moses in his song, which witnessed to their faces, declared, saying, And he shall be comforted in his servants. So when the first were dead, after this number, they brought the second to make him a mocking stock. And when they had pulled off the skin of his head with the hair, they asked him, Wilt thou eat before thou be punished throughout every member of the body? Now, all this because they wanted them to eat pork. Now, that's ironic because this day, Jake, the congregation of the dead, they love pork. I did a presentation on pork the other day because I had a discussion with my sister. And there was a topic which forced me, or which inspired me to do that lesson on pork. Okay? And I explained what it meant. Okay. So the Jake these days they're not trying to hear it. You know, they want that pork, they want that crab. And that's how sick and affected we are, or we've been trained. You know, with I want to say with everything that's happened to us. You know, Jake's stiff-headed and they didn't want to listen. But anyway, I digress. Second Maccabees 8. He answered in his own language and said, "No." Wherefore he also received the next torment in order as the former did. And when he was at the last gap, he said, "Thou like a fury takest us out of this present life, but the King of the world shall raise us up, who have died for his laws, who unto everlasting life." After him was a third man made a mocking stock, and when he was required, he put on his tongue, and that right soon, holding forth his hand manfully, and said courageously, "These I had from heaven, and for his laws I despised them, and from him I hope to receive them again." Insomuch that the king and they that were with him marveled at the young man's courage, for that he nothing regarded pain, for that he nothing regarded pains. Now when this man was dead also, they tormented and mingled the fourth in like manner. So when he was ready to die, he said thus, "It is good being put to death by men, to look for hope from the Most High, to be raised up again by him. As for thee, thou shalt have no resurrection to life." Afterwards they brought the fifth also and mangled him. Then looked unto the king and said, "Thou hast power over men, thou art corruptible, thou doest what thou wilt. Yet think not that our nation is forsaken of the Most High. And abide a while, and behold his great power, how he will torment thee and thy seed." After him also they brought the sixth, who being ready to die said, "Be not deceived without cause, for we suffered these things for ourselves, having sinned against our power. Therefore marvelous things are done unto us. But think not thou that taketh in hand to strive against the Most High, that thou shalt escape unpunishment. But the mother was marvelous above all, and worthy of honorable memory. But when she saw her 7 sons slain within the space of one day, she bare it with a good courage, because of the hope that she had in the Lord. Faith. Faith is the hope of things unseen. These acts, these Israelites are the perfect example of faith, and we do well to pay attention. But I digress. Yea, she exhorted, every one of them in her own language, filled with courageous spirits, and stirring up her womanish thoughts with manly stomach. She said unto them, I cannot tell you come into my womb. I cannot tell you how you came into my womb. For I neither gave you breath nor life, neither was it I that formed the members of every one of you. But doubtless the creator of the world, who formed the generation of men and found out the beginning of all things, will also of his own mercy give you breath and life again, as you now regard not your own selves for his law's sake. Now Antiochus, thinking himself despised and suspecting it to be a reproachful speech, whilst the youngest was yet alive, did not only exhort him by words, but also assured him with oath that he would make him both a rich and happy man if he would turn from the laws of his father, and that also he would take for him his friends and trust him with affairs. I can't help but to think of those that have accepted similar propositions from our Antiochus like people of this century, the small hats that control the music industry, the Jake, the niggers and hoochie mamas, they get paid to do things that will cause the nation to regress, to fail, to do dirt, to sin against the Lord, but I digress. But when the young men would in no case hearken unto him, the king called his mother and exhorted her that she would console the young man to save his life. And when he had exhorted her with many words, she promised that she would console her son. But she, bowing herself toward him, laughing the cruel tyrant to scorn, spake in her country language on this matter. O my son, have pity upon me that bare thee 9 months in my womb, and gave thee such 3 years, and nourished thee, and brought thee up until this age, and endured the troubles of education. I beseech thee, my son, look upon the heaven and the earth, and all that is therein, and consider that the Most High made them of offerings that were not, and so was mankind made likewise. Fear not this tormentor, but being worthy of thy brethren, take thy death, that I may receive thee again in mercy with thy brethren. While she was yet speaking these words, the young men said, Whom wait ye for? I will not obey the king's commandment, but I will obey the commandment of the law that was given unto me, our fathers, by Moses. And thou that hast been the author of all mischief against the Hebrews shall not escape the hands of the Most High, for we suffer because of our sins. Although the living Lord be angry with us a little while for our chastening and correction, yet shall he be at one again with his servants. But thou, O godless man, and of all others most wicked, be not lifted up without a cause, nor puffed up with uncertain hopes, lifting up thy hand against the servants of the Most High. For thou hast not yet escaped the judgment of the Almighty Power, who seeth all things. For our brethren, who now have suffered a short pain, are dead under the Most High's covenant of everlasting life. But thou, through the judgment of the Most High, shall receive just punishment for thy pride. But I, as my brethren, offered up my body and life for the laws of our fathers, beseeching the Most High that he would speedily be merciful unto our nation, and that thou, by torments and plagues, mayest confess that he alone is the Most High, and that in me and my brethren the wrath of the Almighty, which is justly brought upon our nation, may cease. Then the king, being in a rage, handed him worse than all the rest, and it took grievously that he was mocked. So this man died undefiled, and put his whole trust in the Lord. Last of all, after the son, the mother died. Let this be enough now to have spoken concerning the idolatrous feast and the extreme tortures. And that was just based on, Salaki. Hello?
Hi, may I speak to Eddie, please?
Speaking.
Hi, Eddie. My name is Portia. I'm calling from the San Diego VA Medical Center. The reason for my call is we received a consult to get you scheduled into the dental clinic, so I'm calling to discuss that with you. Is this a good time?
I'm doing a class right now. Can I call you right back, or?
Yeah, absolutely. You can give us a call back at the number ending in 7525, so 858-552-7525.
Hello. Give me that again.
858
552.
7552 7525.
25. Am I going to get an answer machine, am I?
No, you'll get a phone tree for dental and then select option 5 and that'll give you a live person.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Have a great day, sir.
You too. Bye. Oh, shit. Oh wow, that's all I got recorded. I'm so lucky. That was a VA, and I had to take it. Um, we're gonna move on. Okay. So as you can see, how serious that is. How dedicated that family was, and it's a good example of how we should be. Okay. So I promised that we would talk a little bit about the abomination desolation. Let me share my screen with you. Present. All right. All right. The abomination desolation is a phrase from the book of Daniel describing the pagan sacrifices which was the 2nd century BCE Greek king Antiochus replaced the twice daily offerings in the Jewish temple, or alternatively, the altar on which such offerings were made. In the 1st century CE, it was taken up by the authors of the Gospel. The Roman destruction of Jerusalem and the temple. Let me see. The siege of Jerusalem, 70 CD, was the decisive moment of the first Jewish, I would say Jewish, but the term Jewish didn't exist back then. It was the Israelites in a Roman war in which the Roman army led by future Emperor Titus besieged Jerusalem. The center of the Israelites rebel against the Roman province of Judea, following a brutal 5-month siege. Okay, let me see. You're right. So, bottom line is, the abomination of desolation. Antiochus, what Antiochus did was he forbade that those sacrifices, offerings to be done and replace it with his abomination, and he forbade the Israelites to do anything regarding the sacrifice, the acknowledgement of our history and our culture. Let me see. See if I can. See, Titus. And normally I would just stop and I would have redid the article when I got that phone call, but I already got so much time in it. I was always almost done when she called. So lucky for the context and the way the message is put together, but I don't want to stop. Let me see. It's Antiochus. Okay. First, let's see who Antiochus is. Antiochus is, let me see. He was a king. He was the son of King Antiochus III the Great, originally Mithridates, alternative from Mithridates. And it sounds the same when I say both of them. He assumed the name Antiochus after he ascended from the throne. Notable events during Antiochus' reign include near conquest of Egypt, his persecution of the Jews in Judea and Samaria, and rebellion of the Jewish Maccabees. Antiochus' ascension to the throne was controversial, and he was seen as a usurper by some. After the death of his brother Seleucus IV Philopator in 175 BC, the true heir should have been Seleucus' son Demetrius. However, Demetrius was very young and a hostage in Rome at the time, and Antiochus seized the opportunity to declare himself king instead, successfully rallying enough of the Greek ruling class in Antioch to support his claim. This helped set a destabilizing trend in the Seleucid empire in subsequent generations, as an increasing number of claimants tried to usurp the throne after his own death. Power struggles between competing lines of ruling dynasties heavily contributed to the collapse of the empire. Let me see. Persecution of the Jews. The Seleucids, like the Ptolemies before them, held a suzerainty over Judea, suzerainty over Judea. They respected Jewish culture and protected Jewish institutions. This policy was drastically reversed by Antiochus, seemingly after which was either a dispute over leadership of the temple in Jerusalem and of the office of the high priest, or possibly a revolt whose nature was lost in time after being crushed. Antiochus issued decrees forbidding many traditional Jewish practices and began a campaign of persecution against devout Jews. Swine was strictly unclean to Jews, but Diodotus wrote, Antiochus sacrificed a great swine in the image of Moses and at the altar of the Most High that stood in the outward court, and sprinkled them with blood on the sacrifice. He commanded likewise that the books by which were taught to hate all other nations should be sprinkled with broth made of the swine. And he put out the lamp called by them immortal, which burns continually in the temple. Lastly, he forced the high priest and other Jews to eat swine's flesh. Such steps triggered a revolt against his rule, the Maccabean revolt. Scholars of Second Temple Judaism therefore sometimes refer to Antiochus' reign as Antiochene crisis for the Jews. These decrees were a departure from typical Seleucid practice, which did not attempt to suppress local rebellious empire. All right, so there was a demon doing his best to do what he do. All right, so let me read a couple of scriptures before I close out. Okay, let's get that Jude now. Jude. Okay, Jude. For there are certain men crept unawares who were before of old ordained this condemnation, ungodly men, turning the grace of our Lord into lasciviousness and denying the only Lord God and our Lord Yahweh Mashiach. Well, Antiochus fit the bill, but then you can also fit the under that banner the Israelites who convinced others to make a deal with them to allow them to practice their heathenistic traits, heathenistic practices. Okay. And let me see one. Let's go 2 Peter 2. And I'll start at 1. But there were false prophets also among the people, even as there should be false teachers among you, who privily bring in damnable heresies, even denying the Lord that brought them and bring them upon themselves swift destruction. and many shall follow the pernicious ways, by reason of whom the way of truth shall be evil spoken of. And through covetousness shall they feign words make merchandise of you, whose judgment now of a long time lingered not, and that damnation slumbereth not. Okay. Okay, let me see. Let's I think I want to look at that word pernicious before I close out. Pernicious.
Strong's G 684. Apoleia.
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 Apoleia. Okay. Perdition, destruction, waste, damnable, to die, perish with. And that pretty much describes what turning your back on the Most High, doing abominable practices, worshiping hedonistic rituals and goals. You're pretty much describing yourself to death. Let me see. Strong's ruin or loss, physical, spiritual, or eternal. Damnable nation, destruction, die, perdition, pernicious ways, waste. Okay. Actually destroying, utter destruction of vessels. And who were the vessels? The Most High's children, the elect of Israel. Okay, I hope that you wasn't too disturbed by the interruptions and my style of teaching. I'm new, I'll get better. I pray that you receive some edification from this class. And with that, Shalom. I pray that that if one of the prophets or apostles come across my site, if they see any issues, I provide some teaching, some training to me. I'm open. With that, Shalom.